All right, let's take a look at count up counters. Now I'm going to add in this push button. Now we can count many different types of events. But one way we can count is just by the amount of times this button is pushed. So I'm adding this button, and I'm going to go to my timer counter part, and I'm going to add a counter. Now the counter address is going to be file area 5. So just like timers were T4, counters are going to be C5. Now I can give it a preset, and let's go ahead and do this. We may not want a preset, or we might. It just depends on what our application is. But this thing is going to count the amount of times I press that button, and I'm going to download it and run it. So I'm going to press it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And notice the done bit comes on just as it does with a timer, except we're not timing in this case. We are counting. Now this accumulated value has reached 10, so we know we're going to have to use a reset for this counter. So I'm going to go ahead and add in that instruction so we can reset it back to 0. Excuse me. And let me add in this I3 here, and we're going to do a reset as soon as I find it. Here we go. And that reset will have to have the same address as the counter, so C5:0. Now, when we press this button, we'll reset the counter. Let's say we want that counter to let us know when it's counted to that amount of time. Excuse me. So I'm going to show you some compare instructions that you'll use a little later. Or actually, we can use the done bit. So you're already familiar with the done bit. So let's go to it. So we're going to say when C5:0/done, then we're going to turn on an output. And we'll know when we have gotten done. And we'll use 0415 just because I want to keep in mind we can jump all over. We want to have some rhyme or reason for why we use an output, but in this case, I just wanted to use one that we hadn't used too often anyway. So there we go. We're done because obviously we are at 10. Now I'm going to reset it by pressing the button, and notice where our accumulator goes back to 0. So I'm going to have to press it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I can reset it, and it will start over, and I'll have to now count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And notice my done bit comes true, and so my lamp comes on. So the only difference really between a counter and a timer, in at least partial sense, a timer will lose its accumulated if it's not retentive, is that we're counting events rather than increments of time. So that's a counter in a nutshell. They can be used for all sorts of things. For instance, if you've got a mechanical relay, that the manufacturer says that relay is good for 10,000 opens and closes. And those do have some values. I'm not exactly sure what the average is, but let's say it's 10,000. You could use a couple of cascading counters to count up to 10,000 and let you know where you could do some predictive maintenance on your relays by replacing them because they've reached their cycle count as far as number of open and closes of a mechanical contact. So again, that's just one of many, many ways you could count product that's coming down the assembly line. You could count faults that come down the assembly line. You can count both. So probably hundreds, if not thousands, of ways that we can use counters.